Hello, I'm Dr. Beth Godey.
And I'm Dr. Martha Leatherman. We're here to talk to you today about home safety. This is the third of 3 20-minute segments about this topic. And all 3 of the segments are available at www.mmlearn.org. We'd like for you to watch the segments in order because the first segment covers some principles that are important to understand as we go through the other ones. You certainly don't have to watch them all at one sitting, but if you can watch them in order, we think you'll get some good ideas about how to make your home safer if you have elderly people living in the home or if you're elderly yourself.
You know, in our series, we take a look at 3 main areas of the house. In the first segment, we talked about the kitchen and dining areas. And then in the second segment, we talked about the entrance, the living area, and the hallways. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the bedroom, bathroom areas. Now, while we do that, we're going to discuss the 3 reasons why people have some safety issues: mobility, perception, and cognition. Now, we strongly encourage you to watch that first segment so you know about these principles, but we'll talk about them in this segment as well. Let's go ahead and talk about the bedroom, bathroom.
All right, here's the first picture of the bedroom.
Several problems here. Now, for mobility reasons, it looks like this lady is going to fall right out of the bed.
The bed is high up off the ground, and her legs are not really quite long enough to get to the floor without some leaning there.
Right, and look at all that stuff on the floor. And, you know, I think we all, when we read in bed or we got the newspaper or something, or we leave our slippers next to the bed and we don't think about it, but if you have mobility problems and balance problems, you need a clear pathway in and out of the bed so that you don't trip over it, those big shoes and all the books around.
Bed rails. People sometimes think that if you have an elderly person and you use bed rails, that's a safe thing.
And that's always the first thing that people tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Leatherman, I should put bed rails up then, right? That's always the first thing people think of.
If someone has dementia, bed rails can be a big problem because if they wake up in the middle of the night and try to get out and can't get out, what they will often try to do is climb over the end of the bed.
Exactly
right. They can get tangled up in the bed rails or the bed sheets, and that can be a big fall problem.
Exactly right.
If someone were to try to get the things that they need off of a bedside table, this bedside table would be a problem. There are a lot of things on the bedside table. If someone has dementia, there are some medicine bottles on the table. They might wake up at night and think that they have not taken their medication and take the medication a second time.
And we often think that, well, you can put the telephone next to the bed so it'll be easily accessible. Try and find the telephone in this slide because it's behind everything. So you have the telephone there and then, oh, I've got to get my medications. You put those down. Oh, what about my hand cream?
Mm-hmm.
You put those down and pretty soon the phone is out of reach, and in the dark and with the visual perceptual problems, the person may not be able to get to it.
So if there was a fall,
right,
they wouldn't be able to even reach that telephone. The other thing is they might get out of balance trying to get to the telephone at some point. They make some really nice telephones now that have big lighted numbers. This particular telephone you can't tell in this picture, but when the lights are out, those pads glow so that you can see and find the telephone. It's nice and stable. If you were to push a button, it wouldn't flop over. You could easily push the numbers that you need.
And some of the phones you can program, and you can actually have pictures of family members so that you know who you're calling. In this phone, for instance, it has the symbols for like a Red Cross for an ambulance and things like that. And there are also those alarms that people can wear on their wrist or as necklaces that they can press and get help too.
The bathroom area can be a big problem. If you saw the second segment, we talked about cords and mobility problems with cords. Bathrooms are a huge area where people will have a heater or a fan because of being cold out of the bath or humidity in a room. But you can see how these cords are hanging down. They're also on the floor. If you had visual or perceptual problems, that black cord on the kind of pinkish floor might look like the grout lines. So you might not even be able to tell that there was a cord there and you could trip.
And it looks like it's difficult to get to the sink if you have mobility and balance problems, getting around that fan to get to the sink. And you really shouldn't have things plugged in that close to the sink anyway.
That's right. With waters and spills, or if someone slipped and the reflex is to grab a hold of the nearest thing, they could grab a hold of the cord and wouldn't be able to catch themselves, but there's water involved. So this is a very unsafe situation.
Same thing here in terms of grabbing onto things. Now this tub has no grab bars, and look at the entrance into the tub. It's rather wide, and you might think, oh well, you could sit down and then put your feet in, but it's different levels, so that you sit down. It's very uncomfortable, and you can't really tell how deep that tub is. It looks pretty deep, but it's hard to tell because of the coloring.
So to balance and get your leg over that if you have mobility problems, and then balance as you're trying to put your weight on the leg in the tub could cause you to slip, and there's nothing to catch on to.
Exactly right.
Similar with this shower. It's a threshold that you have to step up and over. The threshold is a similar color to the inside of the shower as well as the tile floor outside. And the only thing there is a swinging door.
Right. There's no grab bar or handle or any sort of thing to help you into it and out of it.
Now, when you have a tub or a shower, you really need the grip pads. If that had been present in the tub, it wouldn't have made it all the way better, but it might have reduced the safety issues in that tub that we saw.
Right, and the shower as well. It's also useful to sort of guide people to where to stand and that sort of thing.
If someone is in a tub or a shower and they start to fall, they will often grab a shower curtain. This bathroom is probably one of the most dangerous that I've seen.
Right.
It has that wide area that you would have to step over. There's nothing that you can hold on to except the shower curtain to get in there. And it's all hard surface there. So that's a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, and you know, we think, well, I wouldn't try and grab onto a shower curtain if I were falling. But, you know, our instinct when we fall is to grab onto the nearest thing we can find. You know, you've seen people fall. They're reaching out for things, and someone could, even if they didn't mean to, they could grab that shower curtain and down they go.
Any room in the house, it has to have adequate lighting. And if you've seen our other segments, you've heard us talk about the importance of being able to find the light switch. And, you know, I think this is more important, I think, in the bedroom, bathroom area, because people get up in the night.
Right.
And they need to have some light. But, you know, interior design is you're supposed to have everything sort of color coordinated, including the light switches. And that's pretty, but it really means that you're not going to be able to find the light switch when you need it. You know, so often, as I've seen nursing homes and assisted livings and places that are trying to be helpful to older people, they'll have the handrails that are beautifully color coordinated, the same color as the wall. But if you have visual perceptual problems, you can't see that handrail to grab. Exactly right, especially if it's dark and it's in the night. So what we suggest is at the very least you put some brightly colored tape or reflective tape glow-in-the-dark tape on the light switches so people can find them.
The other thing is night lights are good, and we'll show you a couple of things like this one. Some night lights will come on automatically when it gets dark. Some night lights are motion detector night lights.
Here's a motion detector one I can show you right now.
And this one, these kinds of motion detector lights really create a lot more light than just a little night light. So, but they're very helpful so that you don't have to fumble around for the light switch.
So you can kind of go from low-tech and inexpensive to the more expensive. And later on in the segment, we'll tell you some resources where you can look at these and look at the prices of them. In the bathroom, the walkway is very important.
Yeah. You know, if you have rugs in the bathroom, they really need to be non-skid. They need to be attached somehow so that if you step on them or the walker goes over them, they're not going to move around. And also, for someone who has perception problems in this particular bathroom is the pattern of the tile against this solid sort of pale color. They may not be able to figure out where to step or what that texture is. Is it a step up? Is it a step down? And so the bathroom can be very confusing. So if you have somebody, a loved one with dementia, who seems real confused about the floor in the bathroom, take a look. It could be just the rugs against the pattern of the flooring.
You know, it occurred to me that in other segments we've talked about very dark colored rugs on a light floor and how people might think that that's a hole that they're falling
Exactly
into.
right.
That's why the point we're trying to make here is that a list of tips is not going to work for everyone.
Exactly right.
You have to look at the problems people have in your own situation. So if you have mobility problems only, a rug that's well adhered to the floor would probably be very good to keep you from slipping and that sort of thing. However, if you've got some perceptual problems, that same rug that would be safe for somebody only with mobility problems might not be safe for you.
Right.
So think through the principles and look at your own houses. These are just some examples of things. Here's another example of a room that would be difficult for someone with perceptual problems to navigate.
And the reason for that is that first of all, it's sort of all the same blended color, again, decoratively attractive, but it's going to be hard for somebody with perceptual problems to discriminate what's what in that bathroom. And you know, Martha, look at that door. The door there there's no grab bar next to the toilet, and somebody with mobility problems might try and use the door to balance and really have a hard time.
Or even the toilet paper holders.
Exactly right, and those can pull off. And again, the towel rack back behind there, trying to hold on to that, and those come off fairly easily at times.
Toilets are an interesting problem for people with dementia and visual perceptual problems. If you have visual perceptual problems and a toilet like the one we just saw that's all one color, it might be hard to find the toilet seat, either to urinate in it or to sit on. This one is better.
Yeah, already the toilet is a different color, is a contrast from the rest, from the wall and the rest of the bathroom there. But even more, the toilet seat and lid are now a different color from the toilet. And what we've learned about dementia is that people need a cue or a guide, and that contrasting color helps guide them so they can tell whether the lid is down or not. If that was all the same color, they might just sit on the toilet with the lid on, and there's trouble there.
In terms of all one color, this is another situation where everything being a similar color is a problem.
Exactly right. And again, no grab bars, but some people will recommend that you put different colored tape around the edge of a tub so that the person can kind of get a feel for where things begin and end. That's one tip, but again, this is still not a very safe tub, even if you had the the tape around the edges.
Hot water. When we talked in the first segment, we talked about cognitive problems such as being able to read directions or read warning signs. Water that comes out of a hot water heater can be hot enough to scald, especially elderly people who have much more sensitive skin and burn more easily. You need to make sure that your hot water heater is adjusted so that it's less than 120 degrees.
Right.
Because someone with cognitive problems, if they're in the shower and they have that water on and they start even feeling too hot, they may not be able to figure out how to adjust the water and may turn it even hotter.
Exactly right. Now there are little devices that can control the temperature of the water at the faucet site, but that can get expensive. But the easiest way is, as you said, to monitor the temperature of your hot water heater.
At the very least, never leave someone who has dementia alone in a situation where there can be scalding water.
Absolutely right.
We talked about this when we talked about another area of the house, but underneath cabinets in the bathrooms is a great place for all kinds of poisons and cleaning products. And people with cognitive problems will get into these and might even drink them or try to use one of the spray cans of insecticide for a deodorant.
Right. They'll get confused and think, well, here's a spray can. I'll use this to spray my hair and put Raid or some other insecticide. And also, look at that ammonia bottle. Someone could easily interpret that as, oh, here's a bottle of water, I'll use this. And remember what he said about not being able to read, and even if they do read it, they may say, oh, this says ammonia, but it's probably water anyway. The judgment and the reasoning is impaired in people with who have cognitive problems. So you really need to lock this stuff up and don't allow any access.
There's really
to it.
no other way around this problem. Likewise, medicines. Lots of people keep medicine in cabinets in their bathrooms. People with cognitive problems don't have the judgment not to take medications. It's almost like a child who sees things that would fit into a mouth and they just go ahead and use them. So medications have to be locked up as well.
Exactly right. And you know, you can have in our bathrooms very often we'll keep medications forever, so that you may have a medication in there that's an actual medication you're taking now, but it may have been from 5 or 6 years ago or longer. So you really need to clean out, throw away, and lock up.
You know, I've been in people's homes for safety evaluations and seen medication bottles that were as old as 15 years old.
Yeah.
With multiple pills mixed in one bottle.
Right, because they probably took it on vacation and put all their pills into one bottle.
15 years ago.
15 years ago, right.
So you really have to think about those things. Medications on a nightstand, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Don't leave the medications on the nightstand, even if that's a nighttime medication that you take regularly.
Exactly right.
Here are some helpful resources that you can look at, and you can find things such as the scald preventers.
Right.
You can find the night lights that turn on automatically when you come into a room. You can find door locks and cabinet locks.
Right, and pads that you can use to put next to the bedside that will sound an alarm so that you can go help your loved one when they get up out of bed, or if they fell and it will cause an alarm.
It's called a fall pad. They're very nice.
Alarm. And we've been to each one of these sites, and they have some pretty interesting and a lot of them some affordable assistive devices and alarms and electronic equipment. But really the first thing you need to do is go through your bedroom, bathroom area where your loved one stays, and get out of bed and see if there's a lot on the floor. Go into the bathroom and try and get into the tub yourself without holding on to anything. Just take your loved one's walker into the bathroom and see if you can navigate around.
Over a threshold or around a toilet.
Exactly right. So do a little home evaluation, and that will help you when you go into these sites not to be so overwhelmed by all the many products.
Well, we appreciate your being with us, and we hope that you've learned a lot. As we said, this has been 3 separate segments in the series on home safety, and each segment has looked at a different area of the house from the point of view of mobility, perception, and cognition. And we hope that you'll be able to use the information to make your own home safer.
Thanks, and stay safe.